What's going on, everybody? Sonar here, FLW Pro Circuit Angler, and I want to talk to you today about a technique or a category of baits, or what I like to refer to as a system of baits that really has taken the fishing industry by storm. It's caught a ton of fish. People are really starting to utilize it to not only catch limits of bass, but catch bigger bass as well. And that, of course, is the Ned rig. The Ned rig is just something that everybody knows now is a fish catching machine. But there's 6 top mistakes that I see anglers make when it comes to fishing the Ned rig. So let's dive right into the top 6 mistakes of the Ned rig. The very first mistake that I see people make with the Ned rig system is utilizing too heavy of tackle with this technique. Now, originally the Ned rig was designed by ZMAN to really be a finesse tactic. Very small baits like the Finesse TRD, and of course light wire jig heads like the Finesse Shrooms jig head, which is pretty much the original. When people think of the Ned rig, this is kind of the combination that they're thinking of. But with heavier tackle, you really run the risk of overworking this bait, number one, and number two, being able to straighten out that hook, which is never good when fighting a fish. And so what I like to utilize is medium light to medium action spinning rods, a spinning reel, of course, and then finally lighter line. I like to use anywhere from 4-pound test to 10-pound test fluorocarbon line, but probably the most important thing to keep in mind when setting up your spinning rod for fishing the Ned rig is backing up on that drag. Making sure that you back up the drag just enough to where you set the hook. You're not doing a big drop hook set. You're just leaning back into those fish. But when you lean back, that's when the reel should start giving. Just enough so you're getting a good solid hook set, but not putting too much strain on that light wire hook. The second mistake that I see people make with the Ned rig is fishing it way too fast. Now, I need to say that you really can't fish the Ned rig the wrong way. There's a lot of different ways that you can present this bait, whether you're bouncing it on the bottom, dragging it on the bottom, or just reeling it in a steady retrieve. But the most common denominator that I've seen on my most successful days with the Ned rig is fishing it very, very slow. So no matter how you're retrieving it, retrieve it really slow. This bait has a lot of action. It's made of ELAZTECH, so when it's standing still, that's when the magic really happens. It starts standing straight up and has a ton of fish catching action. There's a lot of magic built into the ELAZTECH in this bait, so make sure that you let it do its thing. So the third mistake that I see people make with the Ned rig is setting the hook way too hard. We've already talked about how I like to set up my spinning reels so they give a little bit. The drag gives a little bit when I set the hook. But let's talk a little bit about the hook set process with the Ned rig. Again, we're using very light tackle, including a light wire hook on most of the Ned rigs that you're going to be using. So when you do feel a bite, all you have to do is reel down until you feel the pressure of the fish, and then slowly lean back while maintaining pressure on that fish. And you would be amazed at how little pressure it takes to get a very solid connection with that fish, a solid hook set. So just reel down, maintain pressure, lean back, and you're going to get that fish in the boat. The fourth mistake that I see people make with the Ned rig is not utilizing ELAZTECH to your advantage. ZMAN really pioneered the Ned rig, and the reason why the Ned rig took off is because that the original baits were made out of ELAZTECH, and ELAZTECH has some qualities that really make it advantageous to fishing the Ned rig and being successful with it. And the first one is buoyancy. ELAZTECH is extremely buoyant, so when this bait is bouncing on the bottom and when you pause it, it will stand straight up every single time. It has a very lively action even when it's just sitting there doing nothing. So buoyancy is really important when it comes to this technique. The second aspect to ELAZTECH is that it's very durable. You can catch upwards of 100 fish. I've heard of over 200 fish being caught on one ELAZTECH bait. If you put a little bit of super glue between the ELAZTECH and the jig head that you're using, it'll stay there all day long, and you can catch fish after fish after fish. And finally, ELAZTECH is very soft. It's supple, it has a lot of action, and that kind of works with the buoyancy to create a lot of action when it's standing still. So overall, I don't understand why anybody would fish anything but ELAZTECH when it comes to fishing the Ned rig. All right, so the fifth mistake that I see people make with the Ned rig is utilizing just one bait profile. Now, of course, the original Finesse TRD is just one of my favorites, and I kind of get stuck in this too. I throw that a lot, but when I'm trying to imitate different bait fish, whether it's crawfish or some other type of pelagic bait fish, shad, whatever it is, I want to change the profile of the bait. And ZMAN has you covered, because in their ELAZTECH line, they've really created a very broad Ned rig system that includes a lot of different profiles, a lot of different sizes, and anything from the do nothing rigs that I would consider the Finesse TRD as, to the creature bait line such as the TRD craws, TRD bugs, to the larger Ned rig offerings like the big TRD and the giant TRD. No matter what bait fish you're trying to imitate, ZMAN has you covered with ELAZTECH. The sixth and final mistake that I see people make with the Ned rig is not fishing it around heavier cover. Now, I'm kind of contradicting myself here, because we've already talked about how I like to use lighter tackle and utilize softer hook sets to not overpower the hook in the Ned rig. But when it comes to fishing around cover, you really are just trying to fish the edges of the cover and pull those fish away from that cover. A lot of times the fish that are around cover are highly pressured, and the Ned rig is a perfect presentation to cast to them, to pull them away from that cover so you can lead them out and into the boat. And one thing that I like to do is I actually like to Texas rig the Ned rig, utilizing either the Finesse Shrooms, the Pro Shrooms, or the Nedlocks HD to make it even more weedless. So even if I do make a cast and it gets into the cover, I can still work it through that cover fairly easily. I'm still utilizing light line, light tackle, and softer hook sets, but I'm able to fish this bait around sparse cover and pull those fish away from that cover and into the boat. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video of my top 6 mistakes while fishing the Ned rig. The Ned rig is really a system that has allowed me to catch a lot of fish, and I know it's allowed many anglers to catch a lot more fish. And I hope this video broadens your horizons while fishing the Ned rig system. So go check out the entire system at zmanfishing.com. I'll see you guys out in the water.